Orioles 83, the World Series is brought to you by Budweiser Light. The best never comes easy. That's why there's nothing else like it. By Merit Commercial Savings and Loan, we're not afraid to be first. By Frankel Cadillac, Baltimore's #1 Cadillac dealer. And by Metro Auto Parts, not the biggest, only the best.
Good evening and welcome to our World Series special. I'm John Saunders along with Scott Garceau, as tonight we join in with the multitude in celebrating the Orioles World Championship.
Well, John, I guess by now everybody knows that the Birds wrapped up the title yesterday in Philadelphia with a 5-0 shutout, setting off a celebration that just now is beginning to settle down. Tonight we'll take a look back at the last week in Oriole baseball and savor the sweet taste of a championship season one more time.
The Orioles went on the road and never lost one in enemy territory, and yesterday they wrapped it all up at Veterans Stadium with a bit of poetic justice. Scott McGregor going the distance. Now, we all recall that Scott McGregor had given up just 3 earned runs in 2 playoff games. He lost both those games, so very fitting for him to wrap up the championships. Memories of 1979 are all washed away with the victory, and this time it will be the Phillies. We'll have to think about how the World Series championship got away. For now, it was time for the Orioles to wrap in the glory of their victory.
Hey, come on, Ronnie! All right, let's go. Let's go. Hey, way to go. Yeah! That last big one. You know what I'm telling you. All right, man. Right on, right on. Love it! There he is. Who got it? Woo! What the hell are you talking about? Sing it 9 years for this. All right. I waited 13.
You really had it. Holy cow.
Had to sum up the year and talk about these bunch of nuts. What would you say?
Probably outstanding, amazing. You know, the coup de guerre, is that a French word?
Coup de grace.
Oh, whatever. Guerre means war, I think.
That's right.
Okay, well, we'll get the grass. Coup de grace.
I tell you, this year it was no doubt in my mind that we weren't going to win today. I mean, it's been so positive around here, and it's something like you say, we came into their home park and just took 3, and it was like we came here and we weren't satisfied with 2. It was like we were going around saying that we didn't want to put the uniform on Monday.
Right. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think it was fair that the pitchers kept throwing the balls at Dempsey's bat?
Do I think it was fair?
I don't know. I must have changed rules somewhere. Somebody mistook me for somebody else for once, but I don't know. I'm glad that I was able to contribute. It just seemed like, I don't know, the batter's box was a little different. Something was a little bit different because I never expected I'd get the biggest hits, or end up being the MVP of this ball club. We got so many guys that are deserving of that award, and I was just happy that I was chosen.
All the years in baseball have been fun. The biggest blessing has been with the Orioles for 7 years that I've made a lot of friends, and that's the most important thing. This will come and go. 2 weeks from now, we'll have bills to pay and start getting back in shape again, and this stuff comes and goes, but your family and the Lord and things like that will be with you forever, and they're the most important.
We all have a certain role, like a Lowenstein, a Benny Alla, and all those type of players, platoon players, and we all do the job well, and it was just a matter of getting playing time and getting the opportunity to contribute to a ball club, and we just did it.
I probably will go cry somewhere here very soon. I haven't had time to even... I've hugged some of the guys. I got to hug a bunch of them. John, I don't think that you could ever pitch any better than these kids did in the last 8 ball games that we played.
You hit the home run to win the ALCS. Which feels better?
This one, definitely. There's nothing like winning, and this won it all. And to be world champions, we did it last year. I was not a part, but I felt like, I contributed a little bit throughout the season. And now to be a participant in the ALC and then also in the World Series, it's going to take a while for everything to sink in and realize just what has taken place here in Philadelphia.
Every year I've been here, we've had 25 guys in the club that have got along very well. We played together very well, and we've always won with 25 guys. We haven't won with 9, 10, or 15 guys. So I think the biggest thing is that we get along very well, and it's a team effort.
Each guy does his own little part. Maybe I didn't get no hits, but I tried to play my best defense. And other guys do the hitting. So if one guy does one thing, and the other guy does something else. It's great. That's how we win. We've done it all year. We proved that we're winners. We're number 1.
There you go. Wonderful.
Had to get Ray back. That was a lot of fun. And after they cleared out the locker room, they loaded up the buses and came home to a waiting mob at Memorial Stadium. A crowd of some 40,000 on hand in the midnight hour to cheer for their favorite Oriole and hear a brief word from the heroes themselves. The crowd and team cleared out pretty quickly, but it would not be long before they would gather once again.
A crowd as high as 100,000 gathered downtown at noon today to honor the World Series champs. The team members were just mobbed by the fans from all ages as they lined the streets. A tremendous reception for the baseball champions of the world. And there's the MVP, Rick Dempsey.
A happy homecoming indeed for the Orioles, but it was not easy getting there, as we will see when we come back to review the '83 World Series, game by game. Stay with us. The Orioles started the best-of-7 series the same way they did the American League Championship Series, losing the opening game at home.
Now, Mike Boddicker turned it around in Game 2, and from there it was a clean sweep in Philly. Jack Dawson takes us through the highlights of the '83 World Series.
The '83 series began on a rainy Tuesday night at Memorial Stadium. Scott McGregor getting the call in Game 1 against the Phillies' John Denny. Outfielder Jim Dwyer had the home crowd of 52,000 plus on their feet early when he lifted this home run to right to give the O's a 1-0 lead. But that one wouldn't hold up, as the Phillies showed they could play long ball too. In the 8th, Gary Maddox drove another one out into the left field seats, and the Phillies had a 2-1 lead. Al Holland came on to finish up, and when it ended, the Phillies and John Denny had a 1-0 lead.
He was tough. When I remember him in Cleveland, I guess I only saw him a couple of starts. He was the same way. He had good control on his fastball, he mixed his pitches well, and throws that big overhand curveball, and it breaks big. He takes some off, puts some on. You can never really get a good beat on the breaking ball. Even when you're looking for it, you really can't hit it that well. He was just the same way as I can remember him, very, very tough.
Game 2 in Baltimore was rookie night. The O's' Mike Boddicker against the Phils' Charles Hudson. And the Phillies had a 1-0 lead until this. John Lowenstein in the bottom of the 5th, out of the park, tie game. Then Rick Dempsey with his extra base magic to the opposite field, scoring Rich Dower, 2-1 Orioles. Boddicker helped his own cause with a sacrifice fly and continued his mastery on the mound, going the distance to square the series at a game apiece, as this one went into the books as a 4-1 Orioles win.
I felt like I had complete command of the game. You know, all the way through it, I wasn't worried the whole game. So, I guess that you could say I felt like I had command.
For Game 3, a change of scene. Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. The O's send Mike Flanagan to the mound. The Phillies counter with lefty. Early power from the Phillies, homers by Gary Matthews and Joe Morgan, gave them a 2-0 lead after 5. But the Orioles began to chip away. A Dan Ford homer made it a 2-1 game in the 6th. Jim Palmer came on in relief and pitched 2 innings of shutout ball. And Sammy Stewart followed him with 2 innings of no-hit, no-run ball. In the 7th, the Orioles scored twice. Benny Ayala scoring the winning run on an error by shortstop Ivan De Jesus. Tippy Martinez finished up on the mound, and the Birds went up 2-1 in the best-of-7 showdown.
You beat Carlton here in Philadelphia, and, you know, I guess it's the ace of their pitching staff, so it has to really, you know, give us some credibility and give us some momentum going into tomorrow's game.
Game 4, a beautiful sun-filled afternoon at Veterans Stadium, and the sun was shining on the Orioles. A 2-0 lead in the top of the 4th on Rich Dower's double to the opposite field. The Phillies rallied, however, and when Pete Rose doubled to drive in John Denny, the Phils had a 3-2 lead, and their hometown fans had something to cheer about. But the Orioles bounced back. Sammy Stewart came on to pitch 2 1/3 innings of shutout ball, allowing only 1 hit while the offense went to work. A bases-loaded walk tied the game, and then pinch hitter John Shelby drove Gary Matthews to the wall. A leaping catch saved extra bases, but Rich Dower scored on the sacrifice, and it was 4-3 O's. More from Dower in the 7th. a single to center to score Dwyer, and the Birds had a 5-3 lead with 2 innings to go. Again, the call went to Tippy Martinez for the final 1 2/3 innings. Nervous when he gave up 1 run in the 9th, but with 2 out, he got Joe Morgan to line to second, and the Orioles had the game 5-4 and a 3-1 edge in the series.
Strategy is only as good as the club you have that you're managing will allow you to be, I think. You can use all the strategy in the world. If you don't have guys that can execute the strategies you're after or the strategies that might be involved, it doesn't mean anything.
That set the stage for Sunday afternoon in the Vet, Game 5, Scott McGregor back on the mound as the Orioles tried to end it in Philly. Second inning, Eddie Murray, like a sleeping bear rising from a snooze, lifted this shot deep to right.
Murray drills it to deep right field, and the one thing about Murray is when he breaks out of a slump, he really does it.
But he certainly got all of that one. You could see by his demeanor today.
An inning later, Rick Dempsey went deep to left, and just like that, it was 2-0 O's. More of a good thing in the 4th. Eddie Murray again, and this one took dead aim on the scoreboard and left center. Get the champagne on ice. And with Scott McGregor still in control on the mound, the final curtain came down on a championship '83 season.
A liner, and the Orioles are the world champions.
You know, you really cannot say enough about the Orioles pitching staff. A 5-game series, they only allowed 9 runs to cross the plate, and they weren't all earned.
1.60. The thing I think one of the things I'll remember most about this series is guys like Mike Schmidt struggling day after day, just trying to get a base hit. Here's a great power hitter, and he had 1 hit, and they shot off the bat in his hand. We think about Tippy as the stopper, 2 saves, but how about Sammy Stewart, a guy who struggled the first half of the season, really turned it around. Sammy was just awesome, and Joe Altobelli having that right-hander and left-hander. He didn't have to use Tim Stoddard, who had also been pitching pretty well, but Stoddard and Martinez, can't say enough about those guys.
We talked with Ray Miller after it was all over, and Ray said we had these guys scouted very well, and we told them what the pitchers should do when they go out there, and they just went out there and did it. But a real tribute to Ray and the job he's done with
I think so. Another thing about Ray Miller, he was a strong candidate for a managerial job last year. I don't think he's necessarily looking for one, but the way the Oriole pitchers went through that World Series, he might have his phone ringing. That's
right. I'd give him a call, that's for sure. It's certainly a really nice way to finish it up. Scott McGregor getting his first postseason victory in the finale, Poetic Justice. Scott Garceau and I will be back in a moment to talk more about the Orioles championship. Stay with us. You know, one of the winning factors on this Oriole team, and we've talked about it all year long, is the fact that, of course, they have the Ripkins and the Murrays, who you know are going to do it day in and day out, but you've got guys who come off the bench. Benny Allen, look at the job he did in the World Series, and those are the guys who win it for you. Amazing that a guy like Benny can sit there for a week, 10 days, not be used, go up and drive in a key run. And how about the guys that weren't even around in the end? It's a 25-man roster. You had guys like Swaggerty, Morgello, Gulliver, Alan Ramirez, Stefero won some games. Really, all these guys contributed. Let's take a look at some of the pieces that fit together to assemble the puzzle that adds up to the 1983 World Champions. Start with this man. He would never say it, but the guy who really stirs the drink for the Orioles, Eddie Murray, went through a tough World Series, went into the final game 2 for 16, but when it was all on the line, Eddie rings the bell twice, not the Liberty Bell, but a couple of dingers did it for him. Cal Ripken Jr., the average wasn't up there, but he did hit some balls very hard, came through with a couple of key hits, and of course always strong on defense. Cruz, one of the three stooges, right? This thing got kind of funny. The guys had some fun with it, but Todd Cruz did contribute. And there's Rich Dower, another one of the stooges. Larry, in fact, he came through Game 4, 3 hits and 3 RBIs in an outstanding series for him. But the best stooge of them all in this World Series was this man, the man with the tools of ignorance. Certainly not too ignorant the way Rick Dempsey plays the game, gunning down Joe Morgan right here. Rick 5 for 13, all 5 extra base hits, hit .385 in the series.
And actually, we talked about his hitting, but how about his defense? He was holding up the mitt. Rick said it was easy. I held up the mitt, and the pitchers kept hitting it. But he does a lot in handling the Oriole pitchers. The pitchers feel comfortable with him behind the plate, and he just had an outstanding series. And I know all the Oriole fans that watch this guy get dirty night after night, sliding, diving head first. He even broke up a double play throw with his head during the postseason play. He's just 100% all-out contributor.
I talked to Rick when we first went into Philadelphia, saying they call you a one of the three stooges. He says, I'm just happy to do it defensively. I asked him after the series, what happened? 375 average.
Your line about the Philly pitchers throwing at his bat, right?
That's right. Somebody was throwing at his bat. Rick Dempsey made our job very easy when it came to selecting our Brute Player of the Series. Rick always gives 100% on and off the field. But during the World Series, it seemed more like 150%, and he was our natural choice as everybody's most valuable player. And for that, Rick Dempsey will receive some fine fragrances from Fabergé, which will go nice with his car.
New car. He's going to smell good. Rick Dempsey's really hauling in the loot.
Sure as he can drive all the way and smell good down the highway as well. We talk about Rick Dempsey, and we also talk about some of the other stars. I want to talk about the attitude on the Oriole team. A guy like Benny Ayala, and I keep going back to Benny because he did do the job, sits on the bench, doesn't complain. Compare him to the Yankees.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough situation. There, everybody's grabbing for the cake, and here, guys kind of just sit back and can contribute whichever way they can. And I think a lot of that credit goes back to Earl Weaver. Earl set up the keys. Guys are bit players. You're platooned. Gary Renicky wants to play every day. John Lowenstein, now at this stage of his career, says he's happy to platoon, but he didn't always feel that way. And I think Earl saw a lot of these players saw how they won by filling in the roles, doing their bits, and just kind of not rocking the boat. And that's, if somebody comes into that Oriole clubhouse and stirs things up, you're going to have about 24 guys telling them to cool it. And Joe deserves a lot of credit, too, because everything sailed pretty smooth this year.
I know Skipper Joe Altobelli had a lot to live up to, and he did the job. And as I said before, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy or a nicer bunch of guys. We're going to go out to a break right now and come back to finish up the show in just a moment.
Before the break, we were talking about Joe Altobelli and how much all the fans back here appreciated the season he had. We ran into Tony La Russa, you and I, after Game 4, and he thought the skipper was doing a pretty tough job in the World Series, didn't he?
Well, it was a real compliment that Tony gave him. He said he's just making all the right moves. He's out-managing Paul Owens, and it really is something, because Joe did take a lot of heat early on in the season for some of the moves he did, but let's face it, they finished way out in front, and they win it all. What more tribute could you have?
You know, April 2nd, we'll be getting back at it. Orioles open with the White Sox next year.
Okay, and we'll look forward to that. The trophy case being rearranged, the rings are on order, and the champagne bottles are empty. We started our coverage of the '83 Orioles some 8 months ago. We traveled from coast to coast to bring you their games, and now thousands of feet of cable and man-hours later, we're proud to say congratulations from your Orioles station. And we'll see you on the first day of spring training.
Sing it, 9 years for this. All right.
I never thought anything like this, you know. And now I'm a world champion, you know.
I'm not having any fun.
Wonderful.
We've been so close so many times that it just takes a little bit of true grit from everybody. You know, it's not just me. I've just been part of it. You know, everybody has done it at one time or another. Everybody has been spectacular, has provided Baltimore with that kind of magic that it takes to be number one.
Orioles 83, the World Series, has been brought to you by Budweiser Light. The best never comes easy. That's why there's nothing else like it. By Merit Commercial Savings and Loan, we're not afraid to be first. By Frankel Cadillac, Baltimore's #1 Cadillac dealer. And by Metro Auto Parts, not the biggest, only the best.
Had put the Dodgers down in 4. I'm talking baseball. Gentile and John Orsino, Oriole baseball. Hoyt and Aparicio, the Kitty Core, Triandos, Billy Lowe's. Where was Jackie Brandt? Nobody knows. I'm talking baseball. Baseball and the O's. Earl came upon the scene. Each year they had a winning team. Play it smart, the breaks will come your way. 1970 champs, Rich Davis, May and Grant. Whenever you saw Baltimore, they came to play. I'm talking baseball. Belanger, Ellie Paul, Oriole baseball. Baylor, Buford Hall, Cuellar and McNally poised to throw. Boo Powell strikes another mighty blow. I'm talking baseball.
Hey, it's Jamie Costello. If you just enjoyed this episode of The Vault, you can check out more episodes by clicking on this box down here. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit that circle, and that'll subscribe you to WMAR 2 News for great content every single day.